In this episode, I have Taylor Allen in the Atomic Autosports studio, and we'll be talking about his motorsports journey, and I will ask him the tough question as to why his face is on top of cars. Taylor, it's great to have you on the Late to Grid podcast, and I'm excited to learn more about your background and why you love being at the track.
Thanks for having me. Very excited.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. All right, we got to start off with this question. So, Atomic Autosports in the last 3 weeks, or last 2 weeks, had 3 cars come in that your face was literally on the top of the car. Tell us why that is.
My friends surprised me last year at Gingerman with those decals all over everything. I've got a great group of friends that I met through motorsports. When I moved to Cleveland, I actually didn't know anyone here at all. Really, my first kind of group of friends I met, I was driving my Miata at the time to Nelson Ledges to do a time trial, and I saw a white Integra on 422, and I assumed that guy's probably going the same place I'm going because I have no idea where Nelson really is, and I followed him and sheepishly asked if I could paddock with those guys, and that was back in 2016. And just through that and introducing through his friends, it was Adam Roble, so that was the white Integra with it on the roof, and then joining some of my friends that moved here later, Seth Gale, and then meeting Mike Kubiak and a bunch of other people. We've built this big group of friends, and it's been really great. And we give each other a hard time all the time. I'm always doing something goofy, and I think we built a great group, and they kind of chairman me as the person who started everything, right, wrong, or indifferent, or good or for bad. But I was able to bring together a lot of people that may have not met each other, and it's been great. So that was their way of memorializing it. And one did get stuck on the back of my trailer, and I didn't know about it for a while because you put the trailer door up and don't see it. And one,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so they're good guys, and it's been pretty funny. It's a little embarrassing because I'm making a goofy face in it.
Yeah, but you look good. You got the sunglasses on. So
yeah.
Looking cool.
I was actually refueling my car with flip-flops on, so I got in trouble for that picture too.
Well, now it makes for a great story.
Yeah.
I forget whose car it was a week or two ago, but Seth and Adam's cars were both at the shop at the same time. So that made it easy for Matt, our alignment guru, to get both those cars dialed in since they're set up almost identically.
Yeah, it's great to put DC2 Integras back to back.
Exactly. Well, let's talk a little bit about you, Taylor. Who are you? What do you do for a living?
I moved to Cleveland for an engineering project management position. I've been in the brake and clutch industry for terrifyingly about 13 years now, since college. And currently I work for Bendix. A lot of people know me through my time at Carlisle Brake and Friction and Hawk Performance. There was a lot of fun, and a lot of good things happened through that, and I kind of took the next adventure here in Cleveland. So I'm a project manager right now for Bendix, commercial vehicle systems, and just much bigger brakes. A little slower speed, but the weight and loads are significantly higher. But
right. Do you think your engineering background helps you on track?
I think it does. It may also be negative where you overanalyze things, but it does help, I think, pay attention to detail, especially when you look at the car and you're kind of checking things over for, maintenance or preventative maintenance and safety items. I think it really does help. Functionally understanding how things work, and then being on the track and being able to feel or kind of self-diagnose an issue with the car.
That's why I'm so slow. I'm not an engineer. Maybe. Seriously, I've said it before. The people I've had on the show that have great lap times, that are consistent, fast, you guys are all engineers. Something's there.
Yeah, also a glutton for punishment.
This is true. Yeah, I'm sure everyone's grabbing you at the track saying, "Hey, Taylor, so here's what my brakes are doing here. Do you get a lot of that?"
A lot, yeah. And I'm always happy to help.
That's awesome. That's what it's about, too. The paddock, everyone's willing to help, especially Taylor Allen. All right, so I want to take it all the way back to that 99 Buick Regal that you had on track at Gingerman. So I wouldn't normally think a Buick Regal and Gingerman go together. Tell us the story.
Yeah, it was an unexpected thing. So I was down at Purdue. One of my fraternity brothers, Eric Kinnair, and I were in a calculus class that I was probably not doing very well in. And one of our other friends was like, hey, there's a track day up at Gingerman. I was like, yeah, I wish I had a car I could do it in. He goes, let's do it in your Buick. What are you talking? Like, at the time, it was a supercharged V6. I had autocrossed it. Had sway bars, springs, and really, really crappy tires from Costco. So that night, we put, at the time, PFC pads that we could get from AutoZone. That AT Super Blue brake fluid, if everyone remembers that blue fluid, and drove it up to Gingerman. And the instructor would not get in the car with me. Yeah, really? They were not very happy about. They didn't think the car would kind of handle it, and that car was a champ. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about lift-off throttle oversteer, especially going through 5 and 6, and it would do the entire track before the extension in second gear, which was pretty funny. They had enough low-end torque, and the gearing was just so long. And I think my best lap time was like a 150. Which isn't good, but I absolutely destroyed these Costco tires with strut suspension. You couldn't add a lot of camber in the front, and the tires were like 480 tread wear.
Oh man!
But yeah,
that's awesome.
I remember sitting there watching another run group, and I called my dad, and I was like, I think this is something I'm meant to do. And
no way. What did he say?
He was like, I've got to come to the track. He'd never been to a track day before, and I was like, this sparked something inside me that has never gone away. And that was back in 2008.
That's great. So the autocrossing that got you there, when did you start autocrossing?
It was actually that same year with the Purdue Club. We went to Grissom outside Indianapolis, an old, I think it's an Air Force base, big airport. And I'd only done 2 autocrosses. So I thought, man, track day, get to go faster. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. So what was after that event, after that Gingerman Buick Regal experience? Where'd it go from there?
I immediately bought 18s and some sort of summer tires, a general, like UHP back then, tires were a little bit, not the same class of summer tires we have now in track tires. That was the first thing. And then I put a stiffer rear bar in the car and then did another track day at Gingerman about a month later. Yeah.
The people at Gingerman were probably like, oh, what is this car doing?
By that time, because the car looked kind of goofy with wheels on it, and it had a exhaust from ZZP at the time. And I was actually having people cheer for me going through turn 1 because it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
Oh.
It was like, that's my grandpa's car. It was just so.
That's awesome. So what was your first competitive event?
My first competitive event outside of autocross was actually when I moved to Cleveland, and with my Miata. I decided that I wanted to do SCCA time trial when I moved here, and I bought a really clean NA. It was a 96 1.8 Miata, and built it basically to the rules for S6. I thought that was a good way to start. I'd wanted a Miata for a while and found a really good base car to start with, and I was like, I'm just going to try this. I'm not going to waste time at track days. My friends are already doing time trial things, and I want to try this. And so, yeah, I think it was June 2016.
Now you're a tall guy. Any fitment issues in the Miata? I'm guessing
no.
No,
Actually, I got black flagged the first time I went out because my helmet was above the roll bar. So some creative angle with the seat, I was able to get low enough where they were like, just be careful. And that's actually a funny story because of that. I had a great time. I got second place in my class next to Peter with an 86. I don't want to mispronounce his last name, but he hangs around a lot with DJ Alessandrini. So not only that, I was able to podium, which blew my mind. And then I got the car home. A couple weekends later, I had the interior stripped out of it, and it was a pretty nice car. And I was going to cut the floor out of it. And I just decided I couldn't do that. This car was too nice. Even though I put a roll bar in it, it was just too nice to do that too. So I did what any logical person would do and immediately bought a C5 Z06.
Sure, they're essentially the same car.
Yeah, just a little bit bigger. That's all.
Both have pop-up headlights.
I couldn't tell the difference.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. So just the one event with the Miata?
I did an autocross too at Eastlake. And, at the time, Miatas were kind of exploding in value. So I actually had a straight even trade for that Miata for my C5.
Oh,
and that
nice.
also gives you a little bit of idea of the condition of the Miata and also a little bit of the idea of the condition of the Corvette.
Different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, what do you like about time trials?
I really like how it's not only building a car that you have to build to the kind of the best of the class's ability and also to the best of the platform's ability, but it also takes into your own driving skill. You have to be consistent. You have to use some strategy, especially depending on what tire you're on. I like how it's a mix of both. You have to be consistent, calm if you start to drive frantically. I like that balance. I think it's a great learning experience, not only in what you're as a person are capable of, and also what your car is capable of.
Yeah. Let's talk about RadAir Racing. What were your initial impressions racing with the team?
I loved it. You guys were very accommodating of me. It was great. I walked up and with my little driving bag, with my suit and everything, and you guys had a great hospitality spread. Everyone was nice to me. Got to talk about funny things on the radio, but it was just a great overall experience. You guys had the car prepped perfectly. It was fantastic to drive. When I got out of that car, I was like, I love this neon.
I remember you getting out of the car and just being so ecstatic, so giddy. So
yeah, it was one of the most fun things I've done. I've driven vintage Indy cars and a bunch of other goofy things everywhere, but driving that neon for 2.5 hours, getting passed by some very fast cars, and then I remember the first time I passed a Merkur going into 12, and I was yelling on the radio. Yeah. When I got out, I can't remember if I gave Matt or Joe the biggest hug ever. I know I high-fived you. It was just a fantastic experience. It was awesome to just be blunt.
Yeah. We get to do it again in about 6 weeks.
I'm very excited for it. I was bummed the other event was canceled with low car count, and I'm glad to see the next one is very well attended.
Yes. Yeah, it continues to grow. And folks, if you are on the fence about registering for an event, most times they don't charge your card till close to the event, so register so the events don't get canceled. That's what happened with the May 11th SCCA Enduro. So that's what Taylor was referencing.
Yeah, it's a great thing. If you don't think your car is going to be ready, just register and you can cancel later.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned radio chatter. I think the RadAir team has the most obscure radio conversations of anybody that's out on track. The funny thing is, somebody was asking us about our radio setup. Oh, it was just yesterday. And he's like, well, what do you talk about? And I said, well, I just started laughing. I said, what we should be talking about is things that are happening on track, things that we see in the Champ Car log, asking them how they're doing. But we talk about all of that and a lot of weird stuff. We're singing Freebird, telling jokes, talking about birds aren't real. It could be all kinds of weird, obscure stuff. So I apologize that's the radio chat that
No, it was
heard.
the best. I was trying to think of movie quotes that the younger guys wouldn't know, and I was surprised they knew almost every obscure reference I said.
That is great. So in addition to some of the endurance racing, what else do you have planned for wheel to wheel?
I'm still rebuilding, unfortunately, my Corvette, the other one. But my goal is I want to do 2 wheel-to-wheel events with it this year if I can. One vintage event, most likely based on scheduling, and then an SCCA event if I can, especially towards the end of the year. The car, to the best of me reading the GCR, is a GT2 car. So it originally was a World Challenge GT class car. I think that's where it'll fit. So I'd love to have it out on a track that I'm familiar with, so most likely Mid-Ohio or Nelson Ledges. Do one of those wonderful Wednesdays to shake the car down, maybe a test day at Mid-Ohio as well to get a little bit different track set up, and see if I can drive the thing.
So you haven't driven it?
No, unfortunately, the first time I drove it, I wrecked it. So brake guy had a brake problem, and I had basically a front brake failure, Gingerman, and had 100% rear brake, or only functioning rear brakes into turn 11, and I spun it into the corner worker stand, and more famously, also into the porta potty for the corner worker.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
So thankfully no one was hurt, obviously, so that's why we can joke about it. But so car's about 3/4 of the way done finally. Just body work, some frame damage that I repaired. A lot of fiberglass and carbon work, but it'll be back out there.
Yeah. So mentally coming back from something like that, is there anything you had to think twice about or any hesitation?
No, I actually, it's what prompted me to build a sim rig at my house. I did struggle. I did a couple of events in my C5 that's more the time trial car. and I was significantly slower than I had been all year, even the previous year. Had a lot of mental things. I was afraid of spinning, just being overly cautious, and it really did kind of affect. It's hard to explain, but it's tough to come back from something like that. I really admire the people that can come back out and do it. You saw it at Indy 500 qualifying. There were some guys that rode the rail upside down in a car and went back out and qualified in a backup car. Mm-hmm. I was not that way. I'll be honest, the car also sat for about 5 months. It just kind of depressed me to look at it.
Right. I guess when I knew that you had another Corvette, I didn't realize it was that type of car. I figured it was another C5.
Oh, yeah. It's like most things, I went from a Miata to a C5 Z06, and I figured, why not just go to something completely insane like an old pro car?
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's logical.
Yeah, it was only fielded by like a crew of 6 people, so I can surely manage it by myself.
We'll see. We're going to take a break for a message from Atomic Autosports. Atomic Autosports gets your car ready for the track and autocross course with custom alignments, brake upgrades, brake fluid flushes, suspension upgrades, and much more. Why Atomic Autosports? We race just like you. Your time is valuable. Let Atomic Autosports get you and your car ready for your next event so you can focus on your life. Get Atomic prepped and get on the podium. Also, be sure to check out the show notes for great deals on Hoosier, Toyo, and Continental tires. All right, we're back with Taylor Allen. We were talking Corvettes and that what will probably be a GT2 car. Do you think you're going to have the SCCA license by the end of this season?
So I did get through school, and so I have my permit, and I have to do 2 events to keep it valid. So that's my also goal. I may have to call you up and talk about renting a Neon for an event.
We can do that. So what else do you have planned for 2024?
So right now, a big thing is obviously rebuilding the 2 cars. I was at Long Beach for a vintage IndyCar event, so I was able to drive a 78 Lightning at Long Beach about a month ago, which was a fantastic experience that really can't complain about that. No words to really describe that one. And then I'm going to the inaugural new IROC race at Lime Rock. So I'm pretty excited for that. I'll just be crewing, doing brakes and tires, and being the low guy in the crew. But I'm really excited for that. So right now it's kind of tentative which car I'll drive. The C5, the blue one, is ugly but ready to go. So just really taking some time and looking really forward to driving the Neon.
Oh, absolutely. So how does one get to be able to drive a vintage IndyCar?
The first step is have a friend who buys one.
Yeah. There we go. It all comes back to friendship.
Yeah, very lucky that one of my mentors, through business and through my career, is also an avid motorsport fan. It's where the World Challenge car came from. He's got a big collection of vintage motorsport cars. He kind of kept all of his pro cars as they ran through World Challenge. So there's an Audi R8 GT3, a GT4 Club Sport came in, this Vet before they went to GT3. And luckily he's a very nice guy. The first time I was able to drive it was on the 100th anniversary at the Indy 500, back when they would allow the vintage cars on track Wednesday through Friday. So that was also I'm not going to lie, my eyes teared up when I got out of the car, going full throttle across the bricks at the 100th anniversary in an IndyCar. It was a great experience.
That's an awesome experience. Yeah. Why, so actually I ran into a friend at this year's 500, and he loved the Legend Days, especially the Saturday. Why did they stop doing that?
I think they decided to kind of mix it up to where, with Roger Penske owning the series, I'm not sure if they just changed the strategy where now they have very famous cars out. So there's a group called Vintage Indy now that kind of chases all of the other IndyCar races like Long Beach, and they'll be at Road America next weekend. And you can come run them there because there obviously aren't very many places you can run them. But I think for the 500, they just didn't want to cause any issues. A person did put a 67 Eagle into the wall and caused some issues there with one of the practice days for the real Indy series. So I think that was the idea, to kind of protect the actual race. So, but for the vintage,
that makes sense. So what would you say is a great way for drivers to get better and faster?
I think a thing that I did not take that much, I'll say, investment in was actually watching video. Easiest way right away, just toss a cheap GoPro up. I mean, both my GoPros are like GoPro 4s, they're ancient. But I would never look at my video, and I wouldn't show it to anyone. And it's, look at your video and just talk to people. You'd be surprised how many people give you advice. Make sure it's good advice. You never know. But just to be honest, just to look at it, I would get out of the car and feel that's great. I look at the video the next day and like, wow, I had a huge opportunity that I didn't realize. And then also, if you can, look at your competitor's video. I think it's the cheapest way to start to look into how you're actually driving. It's funny, everyone knows Devin, his dad, track dad Perry, took my catalyst out and was like, hey, did you look at this at pit? And I was like, I haven't been looking at it, so I wasn't even following my own advice. And the catalyst actually tells you what to do. And he pointed some things out, and I went 3 seconds faster. And I was convinced that I just could not go any faster at pit. And using my own advice that I'm trying to tell people to, track dad Perry got me 3 seconds by just watching my video.
I got to hunt him down the next time. Share my catalyst with Perry.
He's a great guy.
He is, yeah. I parked at the last time trial event. I parked next to them, and I should have tossed him my Garmin.
I'm sure he'd love to look at it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. What's the best motorsports advice that you've received?
I would say it's honestly to slow down. Sometimes you get excited. I am the kind of person that will tend to overdrive a car. And I think some of the best advice I heard was from a guy, John Chevelle, told me, same thing, he watched my video. He was like, do you hate this car? Why are you driving it like this? I was like, that was the best lap I've ever had. He's like, sometimes it's hard it's easy to get lost in the moment. And just remember, calm and smooth, keep your hands fast when they need to be fast, but smooth and when they need to be smooth. And just remember that you're out there to be safe and have fun. But it's easy to get amped up and all excited and overdrive. And that's something that really stuck to me when he said, do you hate this thing?
What's the thing that surprised you most about being involved in motorsports? One thing you didn't expect?
Camaraderie between competitors. I was a big triathlon guy before and a long distance athlete, and a lot of people would never share their nutrition plan or their strategy on the bike. That was kind of like something they keep internal, gearing and things along that nature. And people just weren't really friendly. The clubs were friendly. I was in a great club, but sometimes at competitor level, you didn't see that. And in all of the grassroots motorsports events I've been at, people will sacrifice one of their sessions to help someone, give up spare parts. Like, it's great. I've never seen stuff like that anywhere. Like people, Mike Kubiak said people blow up their car, register his car, and drive it at the same event.
Yeah.
So it's just that kind of mentality. Driving your race car home and letting someone use your trailer to get their broken street car home, and just how friendly it is. I think, just like I was talking earlier, how many friends, like even meeting you guys at Atomic, and how the friendships developed over the years. And I'm on the board at the SCCA for the region, and just how friendly and genuinely nice everyone is.
So that's a message to the listener that if you have not gotten involved in motorsports, and maybe you're a little nervous about it because everyone has these prepared cars and they're all ready to go, don't let that keep you from attending. Because as Taylor's pointing out, individuals we want and we need more people in the sport. It makes the sport better. The more people we can compete with, the better. And that's why everyone wants to help each other. So Taylor, you're right on. That's one of the great points and aspects of our sport. So where do you want this all to lead? If you and I are recording my 700th episode here in a couple of years, and you've advanced in your motorsports career, where do you want to take all this racing? Is it a hobby, or do you hope to do more with it?
I would love to somehow turn it into an occupation, but I think that's a little bit stretched, a little bit of a stretch there. Maybe if I win the lottery, I think it'd be pretty cool to build like an endurance team with a bunch of friends and try to go to famous tracks. Like that's been a goal in my life. If you could just load up a car and, hey, we're going to go run an endurance race at Laguna Seca, and then we're going to go, I just bounce around all those famous tracks that everyone wants to go to. And I just think that'd be just the best thing, but just try to, short term is just try to experience as much as I can, be there with my friends, stretch yourself thin a little bit to really get those life experiences, because you talk to a lot of people and You don't want to be the kind of person who's sitting around and being like, man, I had an opportunity, I just didn't do it. I should have done it, I could have, I didn't do it, and then the years slip by, and then you just can't, and you run out of time. So my goal is to just keep doing it as long as I can and involve as many of my friends as I can. And if one day, if I win the lottery and I could start a ragtag pro team and show up with an IMSA stacker with my face on the side of it.
That's the goal, folks. The goal. Taylor's face on the side of a stacker.
Yeah, there we go.
Let's talk about getting ready for an event. So think about the next event you have. Tell the listeners some best practices about how Taylor Allen prepares for an event to have the best weekend.
So the first thing I did create, I'm more of a paper and hand kind of guy. So I have a checklist of all of my things that I need to bring to the track. And I have separate organizational, like tubs. Everything I have has a home. And I try to keep duplicates of things. So like if I need a tool in the garage, if I can afford to have it in my garage and my trailer, it stays in the trailer. Because nothing's worse than chasing down a random spark plug socket because it doesn't fit in the cylinder head or something. So I really think organization is key. Prep everything the night before if you can load it, because you're never going to have enough time in the morning. And nothing's worse too than being flustered, trying to load up and worried if you can't remember if you have something and you're in registration and you're slamming around to get the car teched. And so I try to keep everything organized. My driving suit, all of that stuff goes into one tub. My rain gear goes into another tub. My helmet's in its own bag. And I keep all that separate and organized. And from a driver standpoint, I think just making sure you have all of that ready to go. If you can put it in your truck or your car that night, it just makes it so much easier. It's a lot of friends that will be flustered and stressed in the morning because they need to get fuel or they can't find their gloves or a head sock or the GoPros are dead. I really... It's like the book, The Checklist Manifesto. make a checklist and just do the best you can.
Right. You talked about watching video for getting better and faster. What other resources do you use to become a better driver and also to prepare for your next event? So you talked about packing and getting ready and prepping. But, let's say you're going to a new track or you're going to be racing a new car. Are there any resources you go to learn about stuff like that?
I always reach out to if there are people going that have been there before, asking for advice or even some of the Facebook groups. I'm fairly still new to the sim world. I'm a bit of a technical Luddite. But if you can drive a car that's similar and the track that you're going to on a sim, it really, really helps. Like even before I go to pit, the day or two before, I just drive pit over and over and over again. And it's close, it's a set of course, it's close enough. But it really helps if you can, and watch YouTube videos of people driving similar cars, just to get a kind of an idea. If you watch someone's in car with the same kind of car you can kind of get a visual reference of entry speeds and okay, I know I'm going to go into turn 5 at about like the trees are moving by this fast, so it's not as surprising. So I really think reaching out to friendly competitors, or if you can, drive it on the sim.
That's great advice. All right. So I know you do a lot to get ready for the event. You got a checklist, you're packing everything, you've got all these tubs and totes. What's the one thing you forget all the time?
Trying to think. I haven't been too bad lately. I forgot my air compressor the last 2 events. I bought a Milwaukee cordless air compressor instead of using my air tank. Mm-hmm. And that was very frustrating because I'd have the tires aired up and then you're messing around airing them up and down. And then, so that was really because I did it 2 times in a row. And yeah, so that was frustrating. And I haven't forgotten anything major, but I did forget gloves at Long Beach. But it ended up working out pretty cool because I got new old stock C6R like Pratt & Miller gloves from the Stand 21 people. Yeah,
they just have them.
They had a booth and it was like, hey, this is all new old stock stuff. Like the gloves are still in spec, but they're from that era. I was like, well, I came up to buy gloves. I expected to pay full price. Now I'm getting a discount and cool, like old C6R.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, I forgot my gloves. They were downstairs on the drying rack.
See, you knew to get them ready and get them dry, but you forgot to grab them.
Yeah. So,
Is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to?
No, I think it's great to see more and more people joining some of these events. I mean, you guys have been very hospitable. I think you're one of the few people in Northeast Ohio that'll do any sort of track prep and work like that. I mean, I usually line all of my cars. I think people just, don't hesitate to reach out. The resources are there. Don't be nervous, and everyone's a lot more friendly than you think.
Oh yeah, no, great. That's great advice, and I think once somebody goes to an event for the first time and they actually see that, they get hooked. And we see that like at Track Night in America, very low key, very inclusive, and everyone's like the hugest smile. I mean, they'll be down all the road, going east or west towards Hiram. You'll still see their smile as they're heading home. It's awesome. Yeah. Well, Taylor, I have one more question for you.
All right.
Have you ever been late to grid?
I have.
Let's hear the story.
It was at pit at the end of the year last year, and I went to go out onto the track, and I can't remember if it was Dan Dennehy or someone else. And they're like, hey, stop. Are you forgetting something? Like, well, what? I didn't have my helmet. I was suited up. I was about to just drive right out without my helmet on. It was sitting back at the trailer.
Oh, my goodness.
So I was in a hurry, so I was late. And I drove there kind of flustered because I wasn't ready. And so then I had to go back, get my helmet, be even more late. Ended up missing a couple minutes of the session. So, I was double late to grid.
So is putting helmet on, is that on one of your checklists? It
should be. I should put is your helmet on, you dork? Right on the steering wheel or something.
Exactly. Well, it's been great to learn a little bit more about your motorsports background, where you're going to be taking your racing career with a stacker with your face on the side. And I can't wait to be hanging out with you in about 6 weeks at Nelson Ledges for a Champ Car race with RadAir Racing. Taylor, thanks so much.
Thanks a lot for having me, Bill. It's been great.